Hello, my fellow nerds, and welcome to the Nerd Empire. I hope you all are having a fantastic day today, and I hope you all will enjoy today's reaction video. With that being said, let's get right into it, shall we? The first video we are going to react to, it's called Why They Hate Lord of the Rings. The Scouring of Tolkien. So, apparently there are people who hate Lord of the Rings, which, I can't understand because, in my opinion, the Lord of the Rings series is one of the greatest movie series in cinema history. I can't think of many, if at all, any series that are just as good, if not better, than Lord of the Rings. So let's see what this video has to say about it.
Never before has any voice uttered the words of that tongue here in Imladris.
Do not ask your pardon, Master Elrond, for the black speech of Mordor may yet be heard in every corner of the West.
Nerderotic.com.
Hi, Gavanya, and you over 1 million men and women of the West and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. Not a year goes by without some hack writer from the Access Media or academic attacking our beloved Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. And this year is no different. From the Telegraph, students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings is offensive. University course suggests Tolkien's treatment of...
Hang on, I'm sorry, what? Students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings is offensive. University course suggests Tolkien's treatment of evil characters follows a tradition of anti-African antipathy. What? Hang on, I don't even know what anti-antipathy is. So, give me a second here to look that up. Google it. Google is my best friend. Or what is antipathy? Antipathy. A deep-seated feeling of dislike, aversion. So, an anti-African aversion or deep dislike? What the fuck is... How... In what realistic, logical way is Lord of the Rings offensive? It suggests Tolkien's treatment of evil characters. I hate the fact that so many people have to bring race and other bullshit into things where none of it even exists. It's like these people are purposefully creating problems and creating shit that just never existed in the first place, just either for shits and giggles, because they want to, or because they are just that fucking retarded. This is so goddamn dumb.
Evil characters follows a tradition of anti-African antipathy. That's AAA to you and me. Generally, academics and activists, and quite frankly, I don't know the difference between the two, so we'll just call them people who don't like to have fun and people who are no fun to be around, hate Lord of the Rings. And the attacks on Tolkien go back to the times when he was alive. But in recent times, it was made demonstrably worse by Amazon. You know, the company that started out selling books when its owner, Jeff Bezos, decided he wanted to make his own Game of Thrones and bought Lord of the Rings, which is funny because right now, Game of Thrones, along with Harry Potter, DC Comics, and the core...
The one thing I saw with... I haven't really heard anything good about the Lord of the Rings TV series. Back towards the beginning, I think it was the Rings of Power or something like that. I saw that they made female and children orcs, which I'm going to need a citation on that. Exactly. Which I haven't read any of the books. So a lot of the shit I know is just from the movies and the Hobbit series. So from what I know that of the Lord of the Rings universe is that female orcs and orc children just do not exist. There are only male orcs, and from what I know, they're corrupted beings that are just born from the earth or something. I have no fucking idea. Just, I'm spouting stuff I don't know, but from what I do know, female orcs and children orcs just don't exist. And for some reason, they decided to put that in the, what is it, the Rings of Power series, which is just fucking stupid as hell. They decided to go their own way with the Lord of the Rings story and just, from what I know, bastardize Tolkien's work.
Part of Lord of the Rings that Jeff Bezos actually wants is potentially for sale. And
Hang on, what did that say?
actually wants is
Warner Brothers Discovery is for sale after all as multiple parties circle. Okay.
potentially for sale. Anyway, Jeff Bezos is the Rings of Power. You know, the
It bugs me that he pronounces his name as Bezos instead of Bezos.
billion-dollar disaster and failure that's basically a vanity project right now, gave the activists absolutely everything they wanted. Unfortunately, there weren't enough of them to watch, but it did stir the conversation back up again. 5 years ago, I made a video called They Are Coming for Lord of the Rings, and it was a simple warning that the same thing we've seen happen to Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who was going to happen to the Professor's secondary world, because the activists have been circling this mythology for a long time. And once they sunk their teeth into it with the help of their Hollywood corporate overlords.
Here's one thing that I have a firm belief on when it comes to people making like a TV series or a movie from a book or a series. Like I said, I haven't read any of the books, the Silmarillions, the Hobbits, the Lord of the Rings. I haven't read any of them, so I don't know the exact details. As far as I'm aware, the movies haven't, fully been wholeheartedly faithful to the books, but they are the closest things, and it's when it comes to a movie series in sci-fi or fantasy, it is the best we have ever gotten, ever. There's no argument to be had when it comes to that. I think it should be criminal to go so far off the rails with a story and put your own political beliefs, your own whatever, wokenize it or whatever you want to call it. It should, as soon as it does that, as soon as you put your own beliefs and whatever into it and just deviate so far from the actual original story, it should be just nixed right there. It should not even be greenlit until you are faithful to the actual story, and you are not allowed to put any of your beliefs into it. You have to stay faithful to the story whether you fucking like it or not. And that's one of the reasons also why Henry Cavill left The Witcher series, is because he was the only reason why they kept staying closer to the actual lore. Because he loved The Witcher. He loved the lore. He wanted to keep it as original as possible and as close to the lore as possible. But the people who were producing and directing it were trying to go the way they wanted to, away from the lore, and Henry Cavill had to keep fighting them to stay on the lore. And as far as I'm aware, it got to the point where he had to leave because he couldn't take it anymore. So, and it's just, I don't think when it comes to making movies and TV series that it should not be greenlit unless you are staying faithful to the actual lore and to the actual story. Netflix's Resident Evil. Yeah. I mean, I'd say the only one I didn't really mind that was keeping a bit away from it was the Resident Evil series. The Netflix's Resident Evil I thought was okay. I want a genuine when it comes to Resident Evil, I want a genuine, true to story Resident Evil, either TV series or movie. I was fine with the one with Alice. So that's the one I grew up with. I loved it. The Resident Evil Apocalypse was my least favorite out of the series. But I would like a tried and true Resident Evil, either movie series or TV series, where they actually stay to the story of the games. Because the story is all right there. It's right there. Just tell it. You what, mate? What? I even heard that they're thinking of making a Mass Effect movie series. But they're thinking of telling it their way after the Mass Effect series, 1, 2, and 3. And there are people people in the comments were so against it. And they were saying, the entire story is right there, 1, 2, and 3, right there. Just use that and make the TV series off that. You can make like 9 to 10 seasons off Mass Effects 1 through 3. It's just right there. Just tell it like that. But I can probably guarantee they're going to bring some wokeness into it, some political agenda into it. They're going to bring some woke bullshit into it. They're going to bastardize it so fucking much that it's probably going to be just as hated as the Snow White remake. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I hate it when producers, directors, and other people do this. They just make it how the story that they want to make it, even though the material and story, lore, and all that is right there to go off of. They're like, no, let's shred that and let's make our own story. It's like, no, fuck you, fuck you. Nobody wants that. It's like they don't learn. Mass Effect would be hard to nail because everyone's Shepard is different. Yeah, that is true. And I would be interested to see which romance they would go with. Personally, I would love it if they stayed with the pretty blue lady Liara Tassoni, because I believe she's the best girl to romance. But yeah, it would be difficult to and I hope that they would do Paragon all the way. No Renegade, all Paragon. Because Paragon is the best way to go if you want the best outcome of the story. If you want the worst outcome of the story, you go full Renegade. Especially Mass Effect 2, if you want everyone to die and Shepard to die, do all Renegade. But if you want the best outcome of 1, 2, and 3, it is Paragon all the way. But yeah, let's continue with this. I went completely off the rails.
If anyone didn't like it, well, they were the problem. Particularly the readers of Tolkien who wanted to see the professor's work adapted authentically. And in their infinite wisdom, the creators of the show decided to make the fans of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, and all the works of Professor Tolkien the enemy. Responding to the backlash they absolutely knew they were going to get, Rings of Power producer and bad reboot.
I think doing the Silmarillions as a movie series like they did for Lord of the Rings and Hobbit probably would have been a better way to go than a TV series. That's what I think, but I think they could have done a fantastic job with the entirety of all three, Silmarillion, Hobbit, and Lord of the Rings, as a massive TV series that probably would have gone on for multitudes of seasons, probably longer than the fucking Simpsons and Tom and Jerry, if they authentically stayed to the lore and the actual story. And it would have made them so much money. Oh my God, they would have had such a massive cult following. But they decided to fuck it up and insert their own bullshit and just piss everyone off.
Reject Lindsay Weber famously said, "It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like."
This is so fucking dumb. You can't do that. You can't reflect what, you have to go what its world looks like. You can't just go what any other world looks. Don't do an adaptation. Be completely true to his work. I can probably guarantee you, if Tolkien was alive and he saw what they were doing with the Rings of Power series, he would be really fucking upset. Because you're changing way too fucking much. I would be fine if you wanted to tweak something here and there. That's fine. Every movie and TV series does it. But they have completely gone off the fucking rails with it.
Go back to the book, go back to the book, go back to the book.
Wicked, crazy, false.
Completely ignoring the fact that Amazon paid $250 million to get access to a built-in audience that really enjoyed a world meticulously built by J.R.R. Tolkien and what he thought it actually looked like. Showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay also responding to the backlash.
Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power showrunners discuss patently evil backlash to the show. I don't see how people who are saying these things think that they're fighting for good. It's patently evil. Patently evil. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Called the fans patently evil. To Dwarf of Color actress Sophia Numvetti stating that her role and the Rings of Power are a necessary redress of balance in Tolkien.
Everyone was cast because they were the absolute best person for the role, and to be part of a redress of balance within this world is an honor.
And the rest is herstory, and by all accounts, the subversive work that is the Rings of Power should have been canceled, but the only reason it's still around is so Jeff Bezos won't be embarrassed. I would argue continuing to make it is more...
See, personally, when it comes to casting people, I don't mind if they're of a different ethnicity. Just get the person that can bring out the character the best. Despite the skin color, hire the person that can bring out the character the best, and people will disregard what the person's ethnicity, creed, or whatever the fuck else.
Or embarrassing. And of course, there's all the Access Media articles and academic research, from racially stereotyping in the works of Tolkien to a new Lord of the Rings prequel quietly confronts an uncomfortable legacy.
How Amazon's The Rings of Power prequel grapples with the deeply ingrained ideas of racial difference and racial determinism in Tolkien's world. These people they make me feel so fucking stupid.
How Amazon's The Rings of Power prequel grapples with the deeply ingrained ideas of racial difference and racial determinism in J.R.R. Tolkien's world. Or the infamous Dear Tolkien fans, black people exist.
Oh.
And who can forget this book published in 2022?
Tolkien, Race and Racism in Middle-earth. Do these people not understand what the fuck Lord of the Rings is?
To Tolkien, Race and Racism in Middle-earth by Robert Stewart. Well, apparently everybody forgot about it.
Tolkien, Race and Racism in Middle-earth. Tolkien, Race and Racism in Middle-earth is the first systematic examination of how Tolkien understood racial issues, how race manifests in his... I don't know how to pronounce that word. And how race in Middle-earth is... his imaginary realm has been understood, criticized, and appropriated by others. This book presents an analysis of Tolkien's work for conceptions of race, both racist and anti-racist. It begins by demonstrating that Tolkien was a racialist in that his mythology is established on the basis of different races with different characteristics, and then poses the key question, was Tolkien racist? Robert Stewart engages the discourse and research associated with the ways in which racism and anti-racism relate Tolkien to his fascist and imperialist contemporaries and to 21st century neo-Nazi and white supremacist, including white supremacy, genocide, blood and soil philology, I've never heard that word before, anti-Semitism, and aristocratic racism. Addressing a major gap in the field of Tolkien studies, Stewart focuses on race, racism, and the Tolkien legendarium. Darium. I don't know. Fucking. Do these people honestly believe that oh God, this is so fucking retarded.
It only has 3 reviews on Amazon, and it's sitting at a 2.6, and it costs $93.43.
Huh?
Going back to 2002 from The Guardian, Race and Race. What with the dark skin, broad faces, and dreadlocks, it's a wonder Tolkien didn't give his baddies a natural sense of rhythm, says John Yett, examining Middle-earth's suspect racial undertones, where he states multiple paragraphs down, perhaps I better come out and say it. The Lord of the Rings is racist.
Oh, God.
So this is nothing new under the 2 lamps, the 2 trees, or the Son of Arda. But this one takes it a step further because it's an actual course at the University of Nottingham. And that course comes off as an exploration of the actions of Robin Hood from the perspective of the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Call off Christmas.
Once again from the Telegram, and we got to give them a little credit here on this headline. Students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings is offensive. University course suggests Tolkien's treatment of evil characters follows a tradition of anti-African antipathy.
I would like them to logically and realistically explain how, in what way, shape, and form Lord of the Rings is racist. Is it racist because they are mean to the orcs, that they want to kill all the orcs and everyone who's helping the orcs and Sauron? Is that why they're racist? Because if that's the reason why, it is fucking stupid. You are so your IQ is below that of a rock, if that is your reason. There is no racism in Lord of the Rings. There's no racism in The Hobbit. As far as I'm aware, there's no racism in the Silmarillion. Like I said, these people are creating shit out of nothing because they are just that fucking dumb.
A university is teaching students that J.R.R. Tolkien demonizes people of color in the Lord of the Rings books.
I find that highly unlikely.
A history module called Decolonizing Tolkien and Others, taught at the University of Nottingham, uses a text that says orcs and other dark-skinned characters in the trilogy are the victims of ethnic chauvinism.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it was because of the fucking orcs. Do they not realize that orcs are inherently evil? There is no good. There is no light, no good in an orc. They are born evil. They are born to kill. They are born to eat humans. What part of that did they seem to just inherently ignore? Do you not understand the evil of orcs? It is not because of the color of their skin. It is because that is just the way they are. They are evil. They need to be killed. They need to be destroyed. They need to be wiped off the face of Middle Earth. Otherwise, they are going to eat, kill, and enslave all of humanity on Middle Earth. And they will not care. Man, woman, child, even the old. These people are... Oh, this is so goddamn dumb.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Dr. Oneka Nubia, a historian and writer who leads the module, who's made plenty of appearances on the BBC, and has put forth the narrative that medieval England had towns and cities as diverse as modern London, which is absurd, argues that Eastern races in the fictional realm of Middle-earth are depicted as evil, while fairer-skinned peoples of the West are shown as virtuous.
You can't... I'm sorry, you can't compare the world of Middle-earth with actual Earth. It's called fantasy. You moronic dillweed. I'm sorry, I'm not creative with insults, so anytime I insult, it's going to sound pretty stupid. But this person is a fucking moron. It's just, he's trying to equate the culture of Middle-earth with real reality of, Earth. This is so dumb. The only race that is depicted as, evil is, orcs, trolls, and, I think they were called goblins or whatever that were in, what was the mountain called that they went into trying to get to Mordor? I forget what it was called. It was the... God, that's going to bug the shit out of me. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen... I need to watch The Lord of the Rings again.
I mean, except for all the fairer-skinned peoples who weren't so virtuous, like dwarves who were not evil but could be famous assholes, like the petty dwarf Mim who betrayed Túrin, or the dwarves that killed Thingol. And yes, despite what Amazon and their paid shills will say about dwarves...
Oh yeah, dwarves and elves are not... The only real friendly dwarf and elf you'll find is Gimli and Legolas.
Generally, they're considered fair yet ruddy. And as far as elves are concerned, there's Fëanor, whose actions led to the burning of the ships, and the kinslaying, which was the first time elves killed other elves. The sons of Fëanor, who killed a lot of elves, or Maeglin, who betrayed Gondolin to Morgoth. Then there's the men of the West. Where do I even start? Maybe with the Númenóreans, who were sacrificing humans to Morgoth. The black Númenóreans, and no, they weren't black. And they were, deep in the past, oppressive rulers of realms like Umbar and Harad. Put simply, it wasn't black and white. There was a lot of moral complexity to Tolkien's works, and not every fair-skinned character was virtuous. And that's just scratching the surface. Now, obviously, I'm no Tolkien scholar or expert. I'm just a fan. But imagine if a real scholar or even a hardcore lorehead took this clown's course. It'd be hilarious. In reference...
Oh, God, yeah. Anybody who is, like, an absolute nerd for The Lord of the Rings and all its books and movies, that person would completely shred that professor who's saying this stupid ass shit. It would just shred him to fucking pieces.
To decolonizing Tolkien in academia, decolonizing usually means re-examining or moving away from white Western viewpoints. So let me get this straight, Dr. Onyeka Nubia. You want to move away from the white Western viewpoint of Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, an Englishman who wanted to write a mythology for England from his English viewpoint. I mean, by all means, move away from it. But why would you want to waste your time doing that? Well, because it's not about re-examining or decolonizing. It's about deconstructing, to state the obvious, because somehow the academics got it in their brains that you can fight discrimination with discrimination. But it doesn't end there. In the module's core text, Dr. Onyeka writes that maligned peoples include Easterlings, Southrons, and men from Harad. The trilogy also features the dark-skinned orcs, evil creatures that do the bidding of Sauron, known as the Dark Lord. Now, the article says...
Well, he's the Dark Lord. He's evil. Why do you gotta bring the... why does the skin color of the orcs matter? The orcs are evil. That's just plain and simple. There's nothing to read into. There's no deeper meaning. They're just evil.
As the trilogy, and I certainly hope you're not talking about the Peter Jackson films as much as they are the greatest trilogy ever made, they are not the most accurate adaptation of the professor's work. So are you just focusing on the Lord of the Rings books, leaving out The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, The Children of Hurin, The Fall of Gondolin, The Lost Tales, etc.? Yeah.
God, how many books does he have?
Yes, armies of Easterlings and Harad fought for Sauron, and yes, their complexions matched the regions they lived in because Tolkien accounted for that. You know who also fought for Sauron? The aforementioned fair race of the Númenóreans, some of whom became the Nazgul. But as far as orcs are concerned, they're creatures who are humanoid but not human, with mostly sallow skin, so I don't care what background you're from. If you see them as black people, you told on yourself. The orcs slash goblins were created by Morgoth slash Melkor as a mockery of the elves, who were created along with everything else by the one true god Eru Ilúvatar, who are described by J.R.R. Tolkien in the often cited for multiple reasons Letter 210, a letter discussing a film treatment to Forrest J. Ackerman. They are or were squat, broad, flat-nosed, sallow skin with wide mouths and slant eyes. In fact, degraded and repulsive versions of the two Europeans' least lovely Mongol types. Now, the important bit there before he says Mongols is two Europeans. That is Tolkien acknowledging that that wasn't probably the nicest thing. So if anybody has a beef, it's the Asians. But if we're going to be judging things from history and we're going to say Mongol, that would be from Mongolia, say Genghis Khan, which means about 0.5% of the male population of planet Earth could be offended by that remark.
Problem with it is Genghis was like a big murderer.
He was quite
I
murderous,
suppose he was a bit
wasn't
murderous. He did 34.
As far as I'm aware, out of anybody who's conquered the most amount of territory in history, Genghis Khan is still the reigning king of that. Because he conquered the vast majority of Asia. I mean, the amount of territory he had that he conquered was, I can't even say how much it was because I don't know in kilometers or miles or anything, but it was fucking huge. He is... There is nobody in history that has conquered more land than Genghis Khan, as far as I'm aware. I think the second would probably be Alexander the Great, maybe. It's either Alexander the Great or someone else I can't remember, but Genghis Khan is still is still the number one person that's conquered the most land, and his genes are the one that are spread across the entirety of the planet the most.
4 million. There's another problem as well. Call it rapey.
A remark made in 1958. Many will make that the underlying thesis of Tolkien and all of his works being racist. But that is the deliberately disingenuous argument you will get from modern academics, particularly when it comes to Tolkien. Judging a man's perspective from the early to mid 20th century, that was completely acceptable, by the way, on modern day standards, and having to dig to find something, while completely ignoring all the times that J.R.R. Tolkien said he was against things like rape.
Okay, there was a solemn article in the local paper seriously advocating systematic exterminating of the entire German nation as the only proper course of military victory because, if you please, there are rattlesnakes and don't know the difference between good and evil, what of the writer. The Germans have just as much right to declare the Poles and Jews exterminable vermin, subhuman, as we have to select the Germans. In other words, no right, whatever they have done. I have the hatred of apartheid in my bones. And most of all, I detest the segregation or separation of language and literature. I do not care which of them you think white.
Racial doctrine and those National Socialists. But the professor shouldn't feel alone because Dr. Onyeka Nubia also went after C.S. Lewis, Milton, and Shakespeare. But again, this is just the latest salvo against the good professor from the disingenuous and evil academics. But this reminds me of the worst case of betrayal the Tolkien Society, harkening back to their seminar in 2021, coincidentally a year before The Rings of Power came out, so I'm sure this was totally a coincidence that they had seminars like this. Gondor in Transition, a brief introduction to transgender realities. In The Lord of the Rings. Not sure how they managed to get a 30-minute seminar out of something that wasn't a reality anywhere within the works of the devout Catholic professor.
What is this new devilry?
And yes, these are real, from the real Tolkien Society, an educational charity and literary society devoted to the study and promotion of the life and works of the author, established in 1969.
But wait! There's more!
The problem of pain, portraying physical disability in the fantasy of J.R.R. Tolkien, the invisible other, Tolkien's dwarf women, and the feminine lack, projecting.
I'm sorry, but dwarf women in any fantasy at all, aside from anime, are not very feminine. They are very much more towards the tomboy. They are very muscular. They are strong. They are short. They can be stubby. That's just how dwarves are. And don't get me wrong. There are some dwarves in some fantasies that are very, very big. Like they're tall. They're still considered short and stubby, but you know, more giant, short and stubby. They're big. But, you know, kind of like in, I would say, Darksiders, they would be considered giant dwarves. But dwarves are not feminine in any way, shape, or form. They are muscular. They are tomboyish. They are not, you know, the petite feminine that you would think, you know, a regular woman would be. That's just not how dwarves are.
Indian myths, culture, and history onto Tolkien's worlds. Philosophy, indigeneity, identity, and anti-racism. We're atheists, agnostics, and animists. Oh my. Or how about this one? Something mighty queer, destabilizing cis-hetero anonormativity in the works of Tolkien.
What?
This might be my favorite. Pardoning Saruman, the queer in Tolkien's The Lord of...
Pardoning Saruman. I'm sorry. After what he has done, if I remember correctly, he was very jealous of Gandalf. Gandalf originally was supposed to be the leader of the Maiar, if I remember correctly, but he refused, or he denied it, and Saruman became the leader, and he was... I think he was quite jealous of Gandalf. For some reason his name keeps almost escaping my head. But you can't pardon Saruman. After what he did to the Ents, after what he did to everything, he aligned himself with Sauron. After you align yourself with Sauron, I'm sorry, there's no pardoning you.
the Rings. For those of you who may or may not know from the books, Saruman the White later identifies himself as Saruman of many colors, which could be interpreted as wearing a rainbow flag.
Ha! Gay!
And when he reveals himself, Gandalf's response pretty much sums up everything happening here.
For I am Saruman the Wise, Saruman of many colors.
I like white better.
White. It serves as a beginning. White cloth can be dyed, the white page can be overwritten, and the white light can be broken.
In which case it is no longer white, and he that breaks a thing to find out what it is has left the path of wisdom.
Let's not forget, back in February of 2023, The Spectator reported that a unit within Prevent, the UK Home Office's counter-extremism program, had drawn up several lists of dangerous books. It claimed that these works could prompt or indict support for the far right or horror of centrist horrors, Brexit. Among the specific works mentioned were novels by titans of English literature, including George Orwell, Joseph Conrad, C.S. Lewis, and J.R.R. Tolkien. So I'd like to remind everyone who tries to take down this English legend, prolific author, and all-around good human being that the rest of the world does not agree with you, including you, Dr. Onyeka Nubia. Considering Lord of the Rings has been translated into 57 different languages and has at least 87 translations. It's sold over 150 million copies, making it the third or fourth best-selling book of all time, and if you combine it with The Hobbit, that's 250 million copies. Then there's all the other books and media, and of course the films, the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy, which have a combined worldwide gross of 5.875 million without adjusting for inflation. Based on that data alone, which was pretty easy to look up, it appears that despite what some producers at Amazon and angry academics think, any detractors of the professor and his works are in the minuscule minority. But they're not going to stop, and they tell on themselves, because when we have a course at the University of Nottingham from the professor's home country called Decolonizing Tolkien, again, decolonizing in academia usually means re-examining or moving away from white Western viewpoints. This isn't a scholarly study or exploration or even a re-examination. What it is colonizing Tolkien, because students of the course in Nottingham will also learn to repopulate the canon of British myth and legend. To state the obvious, this isn't about adding to something or building something new, it's about destroying something. Best summed up by the Culture Explorer on X, and I couldn't have said it better myself. Forget education, this is cultural demolition. The goal isn't to re-examine the past, it's to poison it, to strip stories of their meaning until they become something you're ashamed to love. First, they redefine the words. Then they rewrite the history, and finally, they tell you what you're allowed to believe. This isn't a debate about orcs, it's a war over who owns your culture. And the key to destroying a culture is problematizing its past. And Lord of the Rings is just one more monument to tear down. And why do they hate Tolkien? Well, I don't think I'm breaking any news here. It's his conservative values. He was a devout Catholic, a proud Englishman, an anti-modernist, and he had a deep distrust of large-scale government. Values that are antithetical to the ideology of the modern activist and academic. And the timelessness and popularity of this story that will outlast them all serves as a constant reminder that nobody likes their ideas and nobody thinks they're any fun. But Tolkien's works and the values they represent is exactly the reason the vast majority of people, including this guy who is neither Catholic or English, love him.
envtuber.com.
If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
Yeah, it's just... These people are so fucking stupid. There is no racism, no prejudice, no nothing in the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, or Silmarillion. These people, I've said multiple times, are just creating problems where problems never existed. Because otherwise, how would they justify their stupidity? It's so fucking stupid. I can't stand these type of people, and they're just making society worse. They need to shut up and leave this stuff alone. Well, that is the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give a like and subscribe. I post videos 3 to 5 days a week here. I also post videos over on my other channel for gaming as well, so please make sure to give that a look-see, see if you enjoy that as well. I also stream anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week as well. Links to all my social medias will be on my YouTube page. And with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.